Alright, boys. Ya estamos para las últimas. We're actually inside the truck this time. We ain't worried about the motor. I'm going to go on the topic of explaining the mess that we got to do here. I mean, you can see I got, scanner, this, wire loom, wires there, cutters, paperwork, butt connectors, heat shrink, drill, strippers. Hey, whoa. I'm talking about these strippers, not... Hey, estúpida. But like I was saying, just to touch the topic of getting all this done and figure it out. So the main things you need in any kind of LS swap is, in my opinion, the best way to do it, how to get your power source for your PCM, your TCC, and then your fuel. So on the standalone harness, this is basically what you get. Your fuses, your relays, and then your PCM shit. You have to ground it properly, which I didn't do it the first time, but ground it properly, mount it at a decent spot, and then this wire right here is going to manage all this. All this is a signal wire. So from that, you can either have it on the switch to turn it whenever you want, but it's kind of tacky, so you go off your key source. So on this truck, it's an 86, and you have to have it on the, not just the run position, but on the crank. So on this truck, it's going to be a pink wire that's somewhere around there. Pretty thick gauge wire. That's going to be your signal wire for your PCM and all this. Once you do that, you tap it. Next up is TCC. So for your TCC, on this truck, you have two, which I didn't know at the time, but later figured it out. The cool thing is this truck already has this style switch. So you don't mess with nothing like this. You go off of what you need here for your TCC. 12 volts, key on. Well, this is constant power, which I don't think is an issue, but we're going to run it for the meantime. For right now, because I don't feel like running extra wires. But on this application, is going to be these two wires. This orange wire is your 12 volt source, and this one is, who knows what the fuck it goes to, but all I know is it gets 12 volts whenever the pedal's pressed. So that's what I ran my TCC wire, which is the purple wire, and it's T-tip. And like I said, on here it says, brake signal TCC wire must have power with foot off brake pedal. It all depends on how the switch is. Normally open like this or normally closed. Is it normally open like this or like this? That's what you got to figure out. So power your fuel pump, and if you're doing electric fans like I did, this is the way I went about it. This is the cleanest way, the simplest way. I was going to do a lot of extra bullshit, but that was kind of nonsense. So from the battery itself, like in this application with your factory E-fan, this will be connected directly to the battery. Kind of redone that concept, so just kind of lengthened it. So have a wire coming from there, running through the firewall, coming over here, and then this little box right here, this little distribution block, was actually on the truck and it was sitting around here. I repurposed that and put it in here because I need to run power to two different sources. So this constant 12 volts. Oh, this is constant 12 volts. This is actually going to your E-fans. And then this one is going to my fuel pump. I kind of changed this because, the terminals they provided to give you 12 volts and then 12 volts out for your fuel pump with these little suckers right here. And I don't have that kind of crimp or a machine to crimp it like that. All I have is this style. So I ended up doing is changing it, taking this whole block out, depinning it, however you want to call it, cut them off as far as the wires that are actually going to the PCM, and put these plastic ones, which I can actually crimp a little bit better. They have plastic to protect it, and then I got a relay that actually has a mounting point where you can mount it actually to the frame instead of using this. So this is your signal wire, this is your ground for your relay, this is your power source from your relay, and this is the out, which goes to your pump. Have that ran. I was going to run it through, on the other side of the steering wheel, but I was going to do a lot of bullshit, try to curve it back in, go where the frame's at. It was just nonsense. The good thing, there's like a rubber boot there. Where it lines up is right there where the frame is at. So I just snaked it through there, butt connect the existing wire that was ran for the fuel pump that we tied into. Butt connect it, heat shrinked, and then what I ended up doing is using wire loom, because I do have a lot of this, and I try to use as much as I can just to make it a little bit cleaner. I'll shove the wire loom into the boot so it won't come out, and then just ran the wire all the way down towards the frame, so it's gonna look cleaner. So this is the first time you're actually gonna hear the truck turn on. I already went through a couple cycles, but like I said, you're gonna see it. So fuel pump on, cut off, relays off. Now there you go. Hey, contento? Sí, claro. Like I said, you heard the truck run. Those are the main things you need to do an LS swap. All them extra shits. Hey. Get the banana. Be quiet. All them extra shits in the wiring harness are these things, which are mill lamp ground, speedo, tach, fan 1 and 2. But what you do need, which you're going to be reading it backwards, like I said, the TCC, the fan 1 and 2. I'm not using them because, like I said, I'm using the factory harness, the GMT 800s to power the E-fans. So you D-pin whatever came in the harness, and then you pin in from the factory one itself. So that's that. So as far as today marks, or today only have 10 days left to the show. So as you can see, motor's running, getting all the electrical stuff pretty much figured out and done. All I gotta do is clean it up. Now, I at least want to have 3 days worth to get all this figured out. As far as the braking period, if you would say, that's driving the truck, doing a burnout, going through, a good amount of heat or whatever, to make sure that the day of the show and afterwards we don't have an issue where they're going to be like, hey, the truck turned off, or there's something wrong with the truck and we can't run it, we got to trailer it back home, or whatever. We got to push it on the trailer. So like I said, I'm trying to get as much done as I can, which is 5 and 3. Well, let's just say 5 and 5. So 5 days to get the rest of this done. 5 days to break it in. So we should be done by then. But like I said, y'all heard that motor? You heard it? Just motherfucker just purring like a kid. I'm talking about motherfucking chulada, bro. That does not mean that our almost was done. That means your buddy right here finna get paid. I'm talking about, you get 100, I get 100. But it's time to get paid. It's already been a month I've been working on this, stressing myself out. And I think the next video should be just like a clip of it driving around, doing a burnout or something, or just, not looking todo desarmado as fuck. But all right, boys, we're almost there. Almost there. As far as actually having this sucker rolling out of the shop. So, I got the interior more or less finalized, put back together. Everything does work. If you look at your gear indicator, however you want to call it, interior lights turn on. The only thing that works on the cluster is just the voltage. This always stays at 30 whenever you turn it on. It goes to 60. Real bummed out that I didn't get the fuel to work. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's just low on fuel. I'm gonna try to put a couple, maybe like 5 gallons or 8 gallons, see if it moves at all. If not, we'll just figure that out later. Also, I gotta fix the linkage a little bit, or mess with it, because earlier I was able to actually push the truck back, me thinking it was in park, and every time I would cut it on, it would kind of want to jerk, so you were kind of in the medias of park and reverse. So all I have to do is just mess with the screw, maybe go down a little bit, because right now you actually gotta, find park, and you don't want to be in the medias, that ain't gonna be a good day. So we'll mess with that later. The switch for the air compressor is just right here. Like I said, it takes forever to get to 160. That's what the sensor's rated at. Or, let me see if I can show you. It should be somewhere around here. Here we go. Give me a minute. So, off at... Oh, yeah, no, fuck that. Well, on at 165. Off at 200 psi, which I know you're never gonna get to that, nor do I think these tanks can withhold or stand that much pressure. I'm not sure, but just to get to that pressure, it's gonna take forever. So I'm gonna let them turn it on and turn it off whenever they want. Outside, as you can see, we got a binker. Me thinking, well, it was leaking just a little bit, you know, a couple drops. I was thinking, okay, maybe a gasket, or I need to tighten the bolts to the water pump. Ended up tightening it more, kind of got worse. I'm like, okay, maybe it's a gasket. They are old gaskets. Put a new set of gaskets that I got, or that I had laying around from a previous build. Put them in there. Nothing leaked the same. Reused one of the gaskets that came on the truck. Same thing, leaked. So actually I got under there and saw that because I was thinking it was a gasket because it was coming on this side of the water pump itself. But come to find out, it's actual water pump that's leaking because it's coming from the center and it kind of just trickles down and goes to this side. So you're gonna have to go get another water pump, slap it in there anyways. It ain't that hard. All I have to do is just literally take off the intake, the belt, and then well, it is gonna be a pain in the ass because I gotta loosen all these hoses. Son of a bitch. We'll get that done later on. So another thing that I had to redo a little bit is the reservoir. For the simple fact is I didn't accommodate whenever the hood came down, and it would kind of be in this area, and you can see we already nicked it, trying to make it close, just to get kind of a general idea of where it was hitting. So what I ended up doing is just spacing it out about 2 inches, 2.5 maybe. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know what them little spacers are measured out to be, but what I ended up using is just brackets from lift kits and drop kits and just kits itself that I've done over the years. As far as like your drop down brackets for your brake lines and ABS wires, you know, the whole shebang, just little brackets like that. So what I ended up doing is using one right there, took it off, mounted it there, extended it, however far, same thing, nut and bolt. Then I actually had these little spacers that I had from the OBS whenever I was doing, I think it was an AC bracket that I was trying to make work, or I think it was the tensioner, who knows, I don't know, but I had these little spacers left over, so I ended up doing is just pushing it out, just longer nut and bolt. And then for here, which I kind of I'm not exactly sure what this goes to. I think it goes to like somewhere in the transmission on the Tahoe. So, you know, I had the issue of trying to keep it from coming up. You can see I'm way away from the hinge finally done. Like I said, just gonna do an overview, let you hear it, todo el puto pedo. So this truck is 86 C10. The only modifications that I know besides what we did is different style grill, headlights, drop. The drop, I'm not exactly sure if it's coil and spindle, but for sure the control arms are different. The rear, dual compressor, dual tank, monster notch, 4-link. I think these are 6-inch lift bags. Interior, nothing has been done really. The only thing my sister ended up doing, you know, on her time was actually change the interior as far as color. Ended up spraying the carpet, the dash, all these pieces, and then as well as the headliner. Props to her, she did a good job doing that. As far as powertrain, this is where I did most of the bullshit here. So what we ended up doing is sourcing a 2002 Tahoe 5.3 2-wheel drive 460 transmission, bone stock. Didn't do no modifications to it, no upgrades, nothing internal. The only thing I ended up doing was slapping both units out, pressure washing, degreasing it, cleaning it up as best as possible, and slapped it back in there. Both of them have new fluids. The only thing I ended up doing as far as the motor, replaced the oil pan gasket, the rear main seal, and then the cover where the rear main seal mounts to. And then I ended up changing the water pump because it was already leaking. The thermostat came with the water pump. The power steering pump was new, or is new, and we ended up doing the bypass valve because for some reason O2 or something like that, in those year models they had some kind of solenoid. I'm not exactly sure what, you know, the whole deal is that with, but we ended up doing a bypass valve for that. That was from the parts store, and then I ended up doing O2 sensors from the parts store as well. That's the only thing I can think of as far as from the parts store, as far as what you need to do and what you have to make this kind of stuff work. Most of this stuff, we actually sourced it from Amazon itself. The only thing I think we didn't was the fuel pump. I think was from an actual website, I think Quantum Fuel or Quantum Systems or something like that. Besides that, everything is from Amazon. Long tube headers, $200. Coil pack wires, like 30 to 40 bucks, ceramic ones. The intake, cheap one from Amazon, like I said. I think 50 bucks at most, your whole thing, and then they give you the tray. This side, I don't think I can think of anything. Oh, transmission lines and fuel lines are 6AN steel braided. If you put this information as far as Amazon, I'm assuming the motor, it'll give you the kits, so you can already have your proper fittings and all that to convert it. Ended up doing the adapters for the return style fuel system. Those were like 20 bucks. All it is just like a different color to convert to 6AN. Did the Evo Energy, well, you know, all this is from Evo Energy, as well as the fuel filter, 30 microns. I'm not exactly sure how much that cost, I forgot, but it was maybe 30 to 40 bucks. And then that's the only thing I can think of as far as Amazon parts off the top of my head. They ended up using as many things as I could from the Tahoe. Ended up reusing the drive shaft, which bolted up no problem. Transmission bolted up no problem in the same location as the previous one. Forgot to mention the LS mounts were about 30 to 40 bucks as well from Amazon. So besides the drive shaft, I try to reuse everything as far as cooling system and basically anything that's, you know, mounted to your core support on your factory GMT 800. So reuse the battery tray, radiator, all the hoses. So your steam port, your fill, lower, upper, heater core, and all that is from the Tahoe itself, reservoir, and then the tray itself for your new intake, as well as ended up reusing the same power steering lines out of the O2 for this style gearbox, and then reused all the powers or power and grounds from that as well. So I mean, you can see this is your power source. It goes down to your starter. These ground straps and all that are grounds came off that Tahoe as well. Repurposed those. Ended up reluming everything just to make it a little bit cleaner. As you can see there, the PCM, the standalone harness, we sourced it from a different third party, whatever you want to call it. The standalone harness is in that boot right there. The E-fans is in that one, so everything's inside the dash. The E-fans itself, we ended up sourcing it from a different vehicle. Like I said, the E-fan wire harness, not from Amazon. We ended up going to a junkyard and pulling out of a 05. One cool thing that ended up finding at the junkyard was this cover. I'm not exactly sure if the Denali's have it, but the Escalades do have it. I don't know if this is like the older model, like a 02 Escalade, or a 05, 06, because I know they kind of change an emblem or whatever somewhere on here. But like I said, got the engine cover out of an Escalade from the junkyard, which looks pretty cool. It hides all your cold packs, fuel rail, wire and injectors, all that bullshit. As far as that, just did some minor fabrication to make all this work. Not too hard. Everything you can probably source in-house or at a parts store. Nothing, you know, you got to go to a shop or whatever. So this is how it sounds. Long tube headers, no exhaust, basically.